All right, Little Rock, grab your coffee, get jacked up. It's time for another episode of The Block Talk. And I'm lucky to be here today with Kelley Bass, the Executive Director of the Museum of Discovery. Welcome to the show.
Thanks for having me, Jamie.
Well, I'm excited to have you and meet you. And you are Little Rock native.
For sure. Born and raised and love it here.
Yep. And you've had a long career that started out in a completely different field, correct?
I was a newspaper guy for 18 years there. Once upon a time, only the oldsters will remember when we had two daily newspapers. We had the Arkansas Gazette and the Arkansas Democrat. And I worked at the Gazette from the time I was 16 in high school as a copy boy, which is a job so far down the food chain it got evolved out many years ago. Stayed there until the Democrat bought the Gazette in 1991 and closed the doors. And that had been there half my life. I was 32 and had my dream job. I was the sports editor of the Arkansas Gazette. And it was no longer meant to be. So went to Springfield, Missouri, worked for 3.5 years there, came back here to work for Arkansas Times. Took a big pay cut, began freelancing a lot, and my biggest freelance clients was Axiom Corporation, and they hired me in 1999. I spent 9 years there. Got involved in a lot of nonprofit work there, got on some boards, left there to go work for an Axiom board member, of an amazing woman who just died recently, Dr. Mary Good, and began looking for money instead of handing out money, which I was involved in at Axiom, and kind of changed my nonprofit focus. And I got on the board of directors at the Museum of Discovery because the mission of the museum and the mission of the College of Engineering and Information Technology at UA Little Rock were very similar, and did that for 3 years. And then Nan Sells, the longtime CEO, announced her retirement. I applied for the job, pitched myself as a guy who could bring a lot of relationships with executives in businesses that need a lot of kids to get energized about STEM education and hopefully work for them someday. And 7 years later, that's a pretty quick compendium of what I've been up to.
Yeah, and it's packed full of exciting jobs, fun jobs, different jobs, and all of them seem to prepare you well to be in your position now as the executive director. So you guys have, and we were talking before you got here a little bit about how the attendance at the Museum of Discovery is a big piece of this district and this area.
Yeah, we're real proud of our role in many ways. I mean, we know, and everyone will, I think, attest to the fact that we're a major part of the STEM education pipeline. Mm-hmm. We're also a great place to have fun and to spark curiosity and get young people energized about all things. We now say STEAM and not just STEM because arts is a big part of it. But we're also very proud of our role in economic development. And in tourism, we had, for the third year in a row, and we've only tracked it for 3 years that I know of, we had visitors from all 50 states last year. Wow. and 22 different countries.
Wow.
And so it was interesting because we used to only calculate that at the end of the year. And this year, the woman who handles that for us, Beth Nelson, who handles all kinds of things for us, did it monthly. And going into December, we were 49 of 50. And sometime in December, two frigid souls from North Dakota came to the Museum of Discovery, and we hit our 50 out of 50. So we're proud of that. And we last year we had 162,000 people came to the museum, and 60,000 of those were children on field trips. I just watched a school bus go by. Guarantee you that's a Museum of Discovery field trip.
Yeah, for sure. Well, and you're down here, you'll be sitting around doing things. Even when we podcast, you'll see a line of kids walking down from downtown campuses or on field trips to get to the museum. And it's really exciting to see because they're also seeing that area of downtown where the libraries are and the state convention center.
That is a really good point. I'll tell you, it's interesting. Nate Coulter at the Central Arkansas Library System and then his predecessor, Bobby Roberts, have been very friendly to the museum. They have a beautiful facility, the Ron Robinson Theater. And we are soon, really late March into April is when our peak, or April really is our peak of field trips. And we have more school groups want to come than we have room for. So they graciously let us use the Ron Robinson Theater. And we pay a fee, but they open it up to us. And we have a lot of young people because that way we can book, 40 people from Carlisle and 62 from England and, 73 from some other town around here in one show at the Ron Robinson. And, you think about that. Those kids have never been in a theater like that. Mm-mm. They walk. I watch them get out of the bus and look up at the first security building in the Courtyard Marriott. I think that's about a 12-story building. Well, there's really not a lot of cities and towns in Arkansas that have a 12-story building. And my favorite was I was escorting some kids. We walked with them down to the Ron Robinson, And she looked at the menu at Sonny Williams. She's like, $38 steak. I'm like, hey, it's the big city, dear.
Yeah.
It's not Western Sizzling, you know.
No, that's a big city
But
steak.
it's part of the whole experience. And they often eat lunch in the River Market Pavilions, and they go to the Game and Fish Nature Center. They go to the Clinton Center. Sometimes they've gone to Central High or the zoo. So, you know, Little Rock's really a big draw. And also, I mean, we had last week, we had a group, a school in Hernando, Mississippi, which is in northern Mississippi, came 4 days in a row. They drove from Mississippi with a group, went home the next day, brought another group, went home. And we've got groups scheduled. Last year we had field trips from 60 of the 75 counties in Arkansas and 9 other states. And I will tell you, anybody who enjoys life in Little Rock, whether that be the good music we get at Rev Room or wherever, Stickies or wherever we get it, being at the confluence of I-30 and I-40 mean people pass through here.
Yeah, they do.
And when people are passing through, they're looking for something to do. And when there's kids involved, Museum Discovery's on the list.
Well, and it's something that, so my son has been raised in Arkansas. We were talking this morning about how, you know, I was born in California, but luckily he was born here. And he's had this experience of downtown where he'll talk about his favorite restaurants, his favorite places to hang out.
Yeah.
He thinks it's unfair that Limes, you have to be 18 to ride. But he loves the
Right.
Museum of Discovery. And
Great.
we have fun there as a family. There's things that I've learned at the Museum of Discovery that, you know, that game show, Are You Smarter Than a Fifth Grader?
Right.
The answer to that is no for me. And
Likewise.
I'll take him in there, and we just have the best time. What do you even really know? Like, what was the idea behind that? Was it to correlate between the STEM age students and?
It is. It's really a lot about family learning. I mean, the mission is to ignite and fuel a passion for science, technology, engineering, arts, and math through dynamic, interactive experiences, which I hope everyone who works at the Museum of Discovery can recite what I just said. But it's a lot about family learning. It's a lot about, you know, being in a situation where you're looking at something together, you're both learning at the same time. And we hope you go back and continue to research and talk about whatever the subject was. But I think it really is about trying to promote that family learning environment where it's not just the kids run wild and the parents, you know, hang back on their phones. It's where they're really engaged in the programs and the exhibits and the activities all together.
Well, the key word for me when I heard that as a parent anyways was the ignition part, because the whole part for my son right now is like, that's right now, it seems like today anyways, more so than when I was a kid, there's a lot of different things that capture their attention.
Oh, sure.
Many of them technology based. And so you don't get that same read a book and study about this thing and research it. But when you go to the museum, you find this fun application of education with respect to what you mentioned, science, technology, and engineering. So that all of a sudden he comes home and he's got this interest in, okay, I want to do this with my life, or I want to study medicine, and he wouldn't have thought of those things had he not seen something interesting or fun that correlated with something in him.
Well, I'll tell you two things. One thing that's really a popular and very important aspect of the Museum of Discovery is our tinkering studio. In our tinkering studio, every day we have one or more hands-on activities that we engage with our guests in doing. A lot of family environment there. And it's a lot of times it's about building things or taking things apart or learning how they work. And we have one that I bring up a lot. It's called flying machines. So we have basically a wind tunnel, a vertical wind tunnel. So you got a fan at the bottom blowing air up in a basically a plexiglass tube. And we have a lot of recycled materials, and we call this flying machines. And so we say, hey, construct something from these materials, and your goal is that it will hover in the wind tunnel. And invariably, they take like those little plastic baskets that you get like cherry tomatoes in, and popsicle sticks and toilet paper tubes and a Kroger sack and other stuff. And you build something, and then you put it in there, and invariably the first time it flies out the top or it falls to the bottom.
Yep.
And you modify your design. And so if it flew out the top, you might take the scissors and cut a little hole in the sack so it doesn't catch so much air. And usually with some work, everybody can make something that will hover in the wind tunnel. But that unto itself is an educational process that doesn't happen in the schools a lot. Right. Understandably, they teach to the test. And so, you know, you're learning information and you're regurgitating information, and you're going to, hopefully on your ACT Aspire test, you're going to make a good score. But this is a way to like learn, trial and error learning. A second thing. So we have a program that we do in the summer called Girls in STEM, very generically named. And we recruit through the schools, girls, usually middle school age girls, 12 to 15. They've either just completed 6th, 7th, or 8th grade to start. We bring them back for years later. And we introduce them to female STEM mentors who work at, you know, as computer programmers or nurses or architects or engineers. And they learn about their careers, and they learn about how these women got to be who they are, and sometimes the barriers they overcame to become who they are. And it opens their eyes. And Shannon Jones, who runs that program for us, just did a survey of girls who've participated. And we just saw the stats, and Kendall Thornton, our chief marketing officer, developed this really compelling piece that shows that 100% of them are more aware of STEM careers than they used to be. 97% report an increase in confidence. Lots of quotes from girls going like, now I know I want to be a biomechanical engineer. It's just, again, it's about making those connections and drawing that line of sight between if I study science and math and really apply myself, I could be her someday.
Yep.
And so that's what we aren't a career center, but we really want kids to envision themselves as a STEM professional someday.
Right. And that's one of the things I really appreciate that about the museum, because the big thing is a lot of times when you're going to the museum, you're walking through and you're looking at things and you're learning something, but you're not taking a part in it. You're not interacting with it. It doesn't apply the fun to the knowledge. And so I think that's really exciting. But it isn't just for kids either, which I thought was really interesting because, like you said, family learning, but then you also have a series called Science After Dark. Can you tell me some about that?
That is fabulous. It's the last Thursday of each month, the first 9 months of the year. We do not compete with Halloween, Thanksgiving, and Christmas. And there's a theme every month. And we're recording this in early March of 2020. And the February theme was dinos and drinks. Mm-hmm. And we had 362 21 plus folks who came to do fun activities, dinosaur-related activities. We sell pizza from Damn Good Pies. Tito's Handmade Vodka is our sponsor. We had the Titosaurus drink this time. Stone's Throw Brewing is a sponsor, and they sell their beer there. And a lot of times people just they love the activities related to the theme. And March's theme is superheroes. So we'll have a superhero theme to the last Thursday of March. But they like the activities related to the theme, but they also just like doing the museum with no pesky kids in the way. Because sometimes you don't want to knock a 6-year-old out of the way to come up and do the bed of nails or whatever.
Yeah.
And it's such
I've done
a fun,
that before. I
the
didn't
bed
get
of
kicked
nail.
out.
Yeah. So but it is, it's very engaging. It's kind of funny. The only people who don't think we're cool are usually something about 14 to 19. And then once they've stretched through that, then they realize how fun we are.
Well, everyone's awkward between 14 and 19.
Yes,
so.
I know.
So when you're going through your plan as the executive director and you're setting up a year and you're starting to get events, what's your biggest source of public engagement? I mean, how do you get people to be aware about and come into the museum, and how does the community help with that?
Well, I'll tell you, we all know it's a world of social media, and I mentioned Kendall Thornton earlier, and she's done a masterful job of really using social media to spread the word on the Museum of Discovery. We're also lucky in that, there are nonprofits that are controversial on both sides of the political spectrum. And we're not controversial.
Right.
I mean, no one thinks what we're doing is a bad idea. I'll tell you that Mike and Ginger Beebe, our former governor and the First Lady, love the Museum of Discovery, came there. Asa Hutchinson, our governor now, and his wife Susan love the Museum of Discovery. They've had events there. They come there. So we're not politically charged. And so everybody likes what we do. We have a whole lot of people from other educational organizations, mommy bloggers who spread the word about us. So we really get the word out well about the events that we're doing. And we have some really fun ones. Our two biggest days of the year for public engagement, one is called Mestival. And Mestival this year is May 16th. I think that's right. That's a Saturday. And it's the science of making messes. And so we have slime and we have foam and we have mud pies and we're out in the streets in front around the museum. And it's the one day of the year that kids not only don't get in trouble for making a mess, they actually are encouraged to.
Right.
And then we have an event called Tinkerfest. And Tinkerfest came out of our tinkering studio. So every day of the year we have an activity or multiple activities. Michaela Denny runs our tinkering studio, and she comes up with cool stuff to do in the museum every day. But then on Tinkerfest Day, which is September 19th this year, tinkering takes over the whole museum and out in the streets. We'll have about 40 activities, 40 to 45 activities. And we'll have, a normal Saturday like this, it's going to be pretty. We're recording on a Friday. It's going to be pretty tomorrow, and I would guess we'll have 500 people or so come to the museum tomorrow. On Tinkerfest and Mestival, we'll have about 2,500.
Wow.
So they're big days, but, again, we have great support from the traditional media. We have great support in social media. We just got a lot of cheerleaders.
Yeah. Well, and that's one of the reasons. So the podcast is based around people who add value to the community. And one of the reasons we wanted to have you on the show was to talk about the Museum of Discovery and how it is such a anchor to the downtown life, because so many people come here, like you said, there's hundreds and hundreds and thousands of them that come into the Museum of Discovery, and the rest of the economy around it gets to benefit.
I was hanging out yesterday having a late lunch at Sticky's, and Suzanne Aubrey, she and Chris King are the owners of operators of Sticky's, said, now remind me when Mestival is, remind me when, because they have to staff up.
Yep.
Because folks come out of there, and you know what does Sticky Fingers serve? Or Sticky's, they're not Sticky. They serve chicken fingers, really
Right.
good ones, and what do kids like?
Chicken fingers.
So anyway, they do great business. But yeah, we're proud of that, the Flying Fish, I mean, all the River Market area. And again, as soon as I got that map produced, it showed all 50 states represented from public attendance. I'm just talking about people who walk up,
Right.
put their money down. I send it to the Convention and Visitors Bureau. So yeah, we're real proud of our role here. It's fabulous that we're right here in the middle of where things are happening, and it's grown up around us. We moved into that building in 1998, and there wasn't nearly so much going on in 1998 down here. But I'll also say that, the city of Little Rock has been a supporter of the Museum of Discovery. They founded, or they didn't found us, but they incorporated us. They've pledged financial support across all of the years. And they helped us through a sales tax. We're facing going to have a potential sales tax ballot initiative. But a sales tax helped us move from MacArthur Park, which is where we were in the building that now houses the Arkansas Museum of Military History.
Okay.
We were there from 1942 to 1997, so 55 years.
Wow.
Moved down here and opened in the Museum Center, which was renamed that when we moved in. But just to put some perspective on it, so the last 3 years at MacArthur Park, we averaged about 42,000 people a year who came to the museum, all told, school groups, general public. We averaged over 100,000 in that format. So all of a sudden, we had more than doubled. Well,
Right.
we got a $9.2 million grant from the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation, which you can see their great work all over this state. Reopened in January of 2000, closed in April of 11, redid the whole museum, all new exhibits, reopened in January of 12. So we're now 8+ years into that. And we're now averaging 160,000. So we went from 40 to 100 to 160. But that's thanks to the goodness of the city of Little Rock, the Donald W. Reynolds Foundation. And so we've really, and that's our mission is to, as I've told you what the mission is, but we want to offer that to as many people as possible. And real quick other point I want to make is we have been concerned for a few years that, our industry's been concerned that lower income people think about us as where the rich people go, and it's not for them. So we joined a program that's called Museums for All. It's administrated by the Association of Children's Museums. We call our version Science for All, since we're a science museum. And that says that anyone who receives Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program benefits, SNAP benefits, which we otherwise known as food stamps, can come to the museum, and if you're a SNAP recipient, you present your EBT card, which is your card you use when you go to the grocery store to get groceries, and we'll let you in for $2. And up to 5 other people in your party, no matter who they are,
Right.
can get in for $2. And we have about 5% of our walk-up attendants are people utilizing that benefit. So we're moving in on 7,000 Arkansans in the last 18 months. Not all Arkansans, actually. They've come from all over, but mostly Arkansans, who we've removed the major financial barrier to experiencing the Museum of Discovery. So we're happy about that.
Yeah, and that's a massive thing to do for the community, because we do have a lot of some poverty, and most rural states do have some poverty going on in lower income families that need an opportunity to expose things to their children. And like what you said earlier about people seeing and drawing that line from where they are in childhood to where they want to be when they grow up, if they never get exposed to it, then they don't ever see the opportunity, and then they don't chase after it because they don't know anything different.
I'm quoting you on that because that's well said. You're exactly right. And we also, just so folks know, the first Sunday of every month, it's $2 for everybody. So there are people who are income challenged who don't have low enough income to qualify for SNAP, but it's a challenge for them to come pay $8 or $10 for the kids in the family to come in, kids and the adults to come in. So first Sunday of every month, 12 months a year, $2.
I wonder if any of the communities or business communities would be willing to sponsor a day too, where they just pay for. Has that ever happened where someone
We
said?
just had Delta Dental do that exact thing. If those folks would have a dental screening. And several hundred did, and they've done that with us for 3 straight years.
That's
So
incredible.
you come up and say, I'm here for Toothapalooza, And you get in free, and your family gets in free, and then they'll do a dental screening. They're very great organization. They want to take the services to where the people are, you know. So we'll provide the dental screenings where we know the families are going to be, and the Museum of Discovery is one of those places.
Well, before we tie up, I want to talk about one other thing real quickly.
Okay.
We have elementary schools. I know one is over in East Village, one is over here downtown. We've got a couple different East End schools that are here, and you see kids walking around all day, no matter what area of town you're in. You see playgrounds when you're driving by, which I think is unique, really cool about our city, but also that opportunity to be involved with the Museum of Discovery. Is there curriculum that you guys can base some of the things you do off of when you speak to those teachers in schools, or is there involvement between the schools and the museum?
There are. They're about to go to next generation science standards, and before that you had No Child Left Behind. I mean, there's all these, and they have standards, and we have mapped our exhibits and our programs to those standards so that a teacher's, I think they have a certain number of check boxes they need to go tick, 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 tick. Yep. They come and say, okay, we're now meeting these particular parts of the curriculum expectations in a very active, dynamic way at the Museum of Discovery versus just doing it in the classroom. We have a special relationship with ESTEM. We've had tons of of field trips, but we also have had interns. We've had some amazingly, from the ESTEM High School. Yeah. We've had some amazingly sharp young men and women from ESTEM who have come and worked at the museum, and that's one of the joys of there is the quality of folks who interact with the museum. From our interns, we have a summer camps. It's a very successful summer camp program. We have teen volunteers, teen camp counselors. One of those now is an employee at the museum. A couple of those are now employees at the museum who have grown up and got indoctrinated in the way we do things at the museum. So it's a very fun place. It's a very gratifying place to work. And if I ever get frustrated with anything, I just walk out on the museum exhibit floors and watch kids being wowed.
Yeah. Well, it's really exciting to have it here because, like you just said, you could start coming as a guest. You can check out the museum. You can fall in love with a career path. You can follow that. You can come back to the museum and volunteer and help kids find their path and correlate it directly to those fields. And eSTEM or STEM, you called it STEAM, right? Because you added the arts. Yeah. So if STEM or STEAM education is becoming more and more and more prevalent, and kids are able to find themselves in the right career paths for them based on those opportunities that we're providing to them, and you are backing it up with a fun, exciting opportunity. So
that's what it's all about.
Well, I'm excited to have met you today.
Well,
You're a dynamic, charismatic guy, and
appreciate
we just appreciate you being on the show and everything you do for our community. For people who want to maybe donate, get involved, provide a day for people like Delta Dental did, how would they go about finding that? Just go to the website?
Museum.org. There's a Donate Now button. All our email addresses, if you go to the staff page, my email address is there, kbass@museumofdiscovery.org. We'd love to talk to you about ways we can get involved.
Okay. Well, we're cheering for you over here at the Blog Talk. We appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you much. I
see you
appreciate
next
it,
time.
All right.
Little Rock, we're out. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Oh.